Hello class. The purpose of this video is going to be to walk you through the final project and presentation guidelines. Make sure that everyone is understanding of these documents that you see here in front of you on the EDUCAT page, just to make sure that everyone knows kind of the expectation going into the project, everyone knows the commitment, and then what that final deliverable is supposed to be. Mind you, every one of the projects are different. The owner, or I should say community partner, needs are different. So what I have to present is just sort of the basic bare minimum for what all the projects, regardless of what type they are, should have incorporated within them. So if you click on this, you guys will have this document. It is the project presentation and guidelines. Just kind of walks through all the steps along the way. Right off the bat, just as is mentioned in the instructional video for the entire course, is you must get into that project RFP section really quickly and review the proposals. They are very short proposals, just kind of laying out some needs. And then email me your list of top 3 preferred projects by the due date that was provided on EDUCAT, which is going to be the 17th. If you look back in here, it should say right up above. Right, Wednesday, January 17th at midnight. Okay, oops, sorry. So heading back over in here. Just remember that this project, or this whole course, is basically just this project. There is the other financial plan too, which will be opening up in a few weeks, but you want to make sure that the heavy focus on everything that you learn throughout the whole project or throughout the whole program is going to be implemented now within this one. It's going to be obviously pre-construction services. We don't have the ability to physically perform any actual work for this, but with knowing that, some of these projects might turn into senior projects in the future for our in-person offerings. So some of these will get built by our or may get built by our students as well. So what we're doing here is providing pre-construction management services for all these community service partners. The project ends on the last day of class with a final presentation for the construction management advisory committees members, just like we do for in-person offering. That will all get to the presentation piece and what's required there in a little bit. You guys will be performing design and budget concepts and or feasibility studies. There's going to be a lot of documentation required along the way. It's going to require a lot of communication back and forth with community partners, back and forth with our student liaison, which I mentioned in the in the video instructions for the whole course as well. So there will be a lot of logistical challenges to this, and figuring out kind of early on and as soon as possible what are the community partners' needs and what kind of capabilities do we have as the program in delivering that. So right off the bat here, we have a project team meeting agenda. So there's 2 meeting requirements. One is going to be internal meeting requirements. So groups of 2 or 3, whoever's on your senior project team, you guys will have to meet weekly, especially to get started with the program, with the project, to make sure that all your ducks are in a row. You have roles, responsibilities, and you guys have sort of an action plan as to how you're going to go about doing that. As the semester progresses and as you all deem necessary for your own project, you can cut back on the weekly meetings and just have it maybe some email correspondence follow-up. It's still probably a good thing for your team leader to make sure that they are in regular communication with the community partner to make sure that their needs are being served and you have all the information that you need to move forward. You will have to turn this in, so make sure you follow the due dates on EDUCAT. That first submission is just going to be the agenda that you're proposing for your team as like a running agenda throughout the course of the semester. It's not going to be fully all-inclusive of everything you're going to talk about all year long or all semester long. It's going to be, sort of your major points of, what your project entails based on some of the documentation required, based on what you have to provide for the owner for your final deliverable. One thing that you will have to do is for week 1, you must have, in your first meeting, you must have a list of all the team members and their roles, right? So someone has to be a team lead, someone has to be like a, second in command. Some groups might only have 2 people, so it's pretty obvious, right? But we just want to make sure we have a very specific chain of communication in dealing with our community partners. It's also up to you what other roles you would have. So if you do have more than 2 people, you have 3 or 4 people in a group, maybe someone is the estimator, someone's in charge of design, someone might be in charge of scheduling, whatever that might be. Just want to make sure it's clear and that everyone has roles and you have you're all progressing throughout the course of the semester based on the information required. There is a assignment portal in Educat, so make sure to drop that first weekly meeting agenda to that one. After that, you will not need to submit any other agendas. What you will have to do though is every time you meet, you have to keep meeting minutes because that will have to go into your final project manual that you turn in at the end of the year. The other thing that's required for meetings are actual instructor meetings. So on a monthly basis, in February, March, and April, we'll have to have at least one meeting just to make sure that projects are progressing accordingly. There is no scheduled time for those. That's up to you guys as the team members to find a time that fits for all of you. It can be after regular working hours, anytime, and we'll try to coordinate with my schedule, make sure that we get meetings on the books. The sooner the better to get those up and running. And then once we get those, I can send out the Zoom invites, and we'll make sure we do that each semester or each month. Sorry. After each meeting, though, that we hold, you will have to submit the meeting minutes from that to the portal on Educat. There's an assignment portal as well. They're also going to have to be saved and included in that final project manual under the meeting minutes section. So it's just more of a way for us to track, what you're doing, how you're doing it, getting used to the processes for actual construction management practices. After that, the next piece is the pre-construction package guidelines. Just call it pre-con package, just showing sort of basic fundamentals. What you're going to have to include here is a basic scope of work. So all the projects are going to be a little bit different. It's going to require maybe a couple meetings with the owner, or some at least a meeting with the community partner, and some back and forth on solidifying what is included and excluded in what would be considered quote unquote your contract. What is that deliverable going to be? Are we looking for things like stamp drawings? Are we looking for things just like design budgets for the sake of fundraising? There's different levels of what we are capable of doing within the program, and there's different requirements then based on those needs for the owner. So we have a lot of capability, and we have a lot of resources locally that we can work with. So if you do need stamp drawings, we have a bit of ability to do that. So there's a lot of different things we can do. Make sure to work with me directly with your team to figure out what those needs are, to make sure we don't overpromise and underdeliver, and don't leave the community partners short with information that we might be able to provide some additional work than you might have thought was possible. We do have to have some sort of conceptual design, whether this is using some of the software from other courses, or just right off the bat sketching some things out. Whatever that is, we need some sort of conceptual design right off the bat to make sure you're moving forward, and then some sort of budget from the owner and some quick takeoffs and estimates to see where we are with a basic schedule of values, just showing that we have some sort of alignment with our design. You will also have to have a milestone schedule for your pre-construction services. So what is this semester going to look like, right? What is our pre-con project start date? When are our meeting dates going to be? When is our final completion document turnover? When is our presentation going to be? And then any other milestones you see fit throughout the course of the project. So you might have multiple different things where you turn in, a package for the owner, or different things like that where you set up owner meetings just to see where we are. So there's a lot of different things you could put on there, but that's just a minimum. And then also a safety plan outline. So even though we are not physically building this project, just we're going to treat it as if once this semester is over, your group would go in to then build it. So we want to get safety plan information put together. We want to create a site-specific safety plan. At least start outlining them for this first one. So based on what the project is going to be, what are some of those key aspects that are going to come into play as your, that we'd have to think about if we're actually going to go ahead and build the project. So again, because this is our senior capstone project, we kind of look at it as, these are real world projects. They're actually taking place, so we want to make sure they're done professionally, because the documentation will get turned over to the community partner at the end of the project. So submit this in that portal on Educat as well, and then submit it also as one combined PDF. You should have about 100 megabytes of upload capability. So based on the basic information that we're going to be providing here, it's really just more of an outline at this point to make sure we have things moving in the right track. Now, the project manual update package is basically the same thing as what I just walked through. It's all of the basic information, but we now have to incorporate where we are to date later on in the semester. So this we do later in the semester when we have a lot more information. You should have a lot more meetings involved at that point, and we should have um, a lot more items solidified for what the design is, what the estimate is going to look like. We're getting into logistics plans now. We're getting into a couple different scenarios for how we go to build this thing and schedule it out. So the next big piece of it, though, for this one is we have to now not only have a pre-construction schedule, we also have a proposed schedule for construction, and with that we have two scenarios. Each one of these projects are potentials for either our program, for the CM program, to build them as a senior project in the fall, or having a general contractor or someone else building the project. So we have to schedule them based on two scenarios. If a licensed builder was come to take the project, or if we were going to have senior project do it in person. The big difference is we can only do a senior project in the fall semester, but a builder might be able to do that anytime. So we have maybe more flexibility, but we're obviously going to have a lot more costs when it comes to that. The one thing to consider for cost with our CM project is we always incorporate a $200 general conditions cost. So, but the labor obviously is part of the construction, is not part of the construction cost for a CM senior project. Along with that, we also want to start looking at logistics plans for these projects too. Just again, we're doing all the pre-construction services as if the project was going to take place. Because quite honestly, some of them probably will. Make sure to submit this in the project manual update submission folder on Educat. You may be able to, so you can submit this instead of having one giant document, you can submit this as individual documents. Just make sure that you have them very clearly labeled files so it's easier to understand. And the final project guidelines are basically everything you're tracking all the way throughout the project. You will have to submit that final project manual before your final presentation. So it's encouraged that you do it either that morning of or the night before, just to give you the longest amount of time possible that you could have to, cross your T's, dot your I's, everything. Because this is going to be a big one, what you're going to do is instead of actually physically submitting anything, you're going to have to electronically share your Google Drive with me. And within that Google Drive, you're going to have one final project manual document, which is a combined PDF of your final pieces of everything that you would be doing, right? That final scope of work, that final estimate, the final design, the final site-specific safety plan, all those final items as one final PDF document that would be a project manual. And then you're going to have individual folders for all of them. That's going to be proving and showing that you've tracked your progress all throughout. So the final project manual, that individual document will have to have a title sheet, table of contents, an executive summary explaining that semester-long program, just a one-pager max. The general scope of work that's going to be involved, the final design plans and renderings will have to be in there, your schedules, right, your final pre-con and design schedule, and your final proposed schedule for construction, if either one of those scenarios, right? So plan for giving them options on both. Proposed logistics plan, final project estimate, again, planning for both, is a contractor doing it or a senior project doing it. Your project narrative, which just kind of explains what are challenges that were overcome, some lessons learned, and then value taken from the project, value added to the community. So, instead of having your professionals doing this, we have a nice agreement with a lot of different partners around town, around the university, to make sure that we have a lot of nice value add to the community as part of our service learning projects. And then any other things that you might deem as necessary that shows, the bulk of your work. Meeting minutes will not be included in that project manual, but you must include those in a folder somewhere, right? So right down below, here's your folder layout, just to make sure that you wouldn't be submitting meeting minutes to the owner for other things for most part, other than as you're going along with the project. But we do want to make sure we have those as a practice for this project. So I just put down here just kind of a general layout of what your folder might look like, where you have different folders that incorporate all the different pieces of work that you have, and then one final project document. Um, and within each of those folders, you have that final document that's the end all be all that you're submitting within that one combined doc. And then you have all your folders with backup information for maybe your pre-con packages, your update packages, other pertinent information as well that help lead you to that final. At the end of the semester, after you're done with your final presentation, you also have a peer and group evaluation to submit, which is on EduCAD as well. That's just to show, making sure that everyone's doing their work and you all feel comfortable with the work that was being done within your group too. And the presentation guidelines. So this is going to be done virtually. Each group, I have a schedule listed here. I'll show you in a little bit, but each group will have a short time to go present to members of the advisory committee, potentially other, executive team or other administrators throughout the university who tend to sit in on our in-person senior project presentations, and then your community partners will be involved as well. Within that presentation, here you're just basic items that you'll have to address in no particular order. Obviously, the welcoming address and closing address, but some of these other things can be shifted around wherever you need to. And this is, again, just the bare minimum. Your projects are all unique, so make sure that you treat them uniquely for what's best suited for presenting your final project. You'll have between 17 to 20 minutes. After that presentation is done, there'll be a very short time for questions within the entire audience. And then we didn't know how to do a picture, so we'll just do a Zoom picture really quickly with your community partner. Once all the presentations are complete, the entire senior class together will join a breakout room with the construction management advisory committee members, and they will discuss the projects, the presentations, and then the general online CM program as a whole, with that being a goal to provide some constructive feedback so that we can help improve on different areas, especially for this group moving forward. This is our first cohort coming through. There's been a lot of challenges getting a lot of construction stuff online, so we want to make sure that we're updating and making appropriate changes all throughout, so we have continuously improvement for future students in the program. This team project is 60% of the grade. The presentation is 20% of the grade, and that other 20% reminder is just that financial plan assignment. And then down here is just a schedule for presentation day. So we'll announce which teams are going at what time at some point. But just so you are aware, we have a block from 10 to 12 on that April 26th date. So make sure to block that off now so we can get that taken care of. And just really quickly, I know this is a longer video than I planned, but all the other information that you need is on here. Obviously, you have access to that document. You have the peer evaluation document, presentation evaluation rubric 2, which is what the advisor committee is going to be grading, and then different project example items. So in here we have different sites, sample safety plans, time log examples, schedule examples. If there's more information you'd like to see examples on, let me know, and I can find some resources from other projects that we've used. And then all of your assignments and all of your submissions are just done throughout this section of EduCAD as well. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I will be hearing from all of you, I'm guessing, very shortly, so I can get you guys onto Teams, and then also making sure we're getting meetings scheduled for February, March, and April, getting those on the books. So, all right. Well, good luck, everyone. Enjoy the projects.